We may just have figured out the biggest secret Coinbase is hiding from us. And it might explain why Bitcoiners are losing out on massive gains. I want you to sit down. Oh, you're already sitting? Okay, well, this is not good. I'm here to break it to you. If you're a Bitcoin holder, you're being taxed differently than someone who holds Ethereum. That's not an accident. And there are reports that Coinbase and their leadership make sure of it. That's right. And don't forget that this is the same company that is currently engaged in a war with Wall Street and the White House over the Clarity Act. What is the Clarity Act? But wait, doesn't nearly every ETF and Bitcoin treasury company use Coinbase to custody their Bitcoin? Why, yes. Yes, they do. And there's even more to this Coinbase story than meets the eye. I'm Oceans. This is Beyond Bitcoin. Let's dive in. All right, Bitcoin is sitting around $65,000 as of this recording, down from where we were before the Iran war started and up from where the mainstream press would prefer it, and holding. While gold drops, stocks drop, and the bond market has what my financial advisor would call concerns. That's if I had a financial advisor. Remember, past performance doesn't equal whatever that it doesn't equal. Now, let's get to the Parity Act, because that's what I know you're all here for. That's the name of this bill, with a capital P and a capital A, providing appropriate regulatory inflation treatment for you. They named it Parity. Here's what it does. It creates a de minimis tax exemption, meaning you can make small crypto purchases without triggering a capital gains event every time. It sounds great. And for stake and rewards, it is. But here in Bitcoin, we don't stake. I mean, we stake, but we don't stake. Am I right? Bitcoin mining, still double taxed. You mine a Bitcoin, you pay income tax when you receive it, and then you sell it, and you get capital gains tax. They're proposing to fix this for staking, for the Ethereum ecosystem, but not for you. Wait. You pay income tax when you mine Bitcoin? How? This is real, folks. This is established IRS tax law. It's not just a claim in this script. So now, before I tell you about the Coinbase part, there is a Coinbase part, by the way, I want you to understand what de minimis exemption actually does for you. Right now, if you spend Bitcoin on a cup of coffee, the IRS considers it a taxable event. You have to calculate the cost basis, the gain, and file it every single time you use money as money. A de minimis exemption fixes that. Spend under a threshold, no capital gains event. Bitcoin functions like a currency instead of a commodity you have to account for at checkout. This is the thing that makes Bitcoin actually usable in daily life. But the crypto lobby told legislators that isn't important. That nobody uses Bitcoin for transactions, that it's a non-issue. Here's Marty Bent and David Zell from the Bitcoin Policy Institute on what happened.
That de minimis is sort of a waste of time, that it's like a non-issue, that nobody's using Bitcoin for transactions. So, let's just not prioritize this. Like the incentive structure for the crypto lobby is just very clear. Like you're running a, meme coin casino, like you want the meme coin casino laws to be written in your favor before you engage in sort of the, what I'm sure some people look at as just like sort of the esoteric, pro-freedom stuff. But I do believe Brian when he says like, hey, I've told my team the SBR is important. I've told my team de minimis is important. What I haven't seen is any evidence of actually expending political capital to try to make these things a priority and get them done.
The incentive structure for the crypto lobby. Let me translate that. Coinbase makes money when you trade. They also issue USDC, a stablecoin. A de minimis exemption for Bitcoin means people start using Bitcoin for transactions instead of it sitting on their Coinbase accounts. That's not good for Coinbase. A de minimis exemption for stablecoins means people use USDC, Coinbase's product, for everyday purchases. That is good for Coinbase. So when Coinbase tells legislators that Bitcoin's de minimis exemption is a non-issue, they're not wrong that it's a non-issue for them. It's a non-issue because it doesn't benefit their stablecoin business. Pierre Richard put it plainly on Friday. A Bitcoin tax exemption is the #1 priority. Everything else should be grateful to exist. And he's right. And if you bought Bitcoin from Coinbase, like me, I bought Bitcoin from Coinbase, I'm starting to look at this like, maybe I need to find somewhere else to buy my Bitcoin. Real quick, self-custody doesn't end at your wallet. What happens when the grid goes down? What happens when cell towers stop working? or when you need to communicate and the infrastructure you rely on isn't there. Sat123.com has satellite phones, Starlink kits, and Faraday bags, portable power stations, everything you need to stay sovereign when the system fails. I'm not paranoid. I'm just trying to be prepared. There is a difference. Use promo code SIMPLY for 15% off your entire purchase at sat123.com. That's sat123.com, promo code SIMPLY. All right, so we're in day 30 of the Iran war, and Trump gave an interview to the Financial Times this weekend that I want to read to you directly, because paraphrasing it would actually make it sound less extreme than it is. Quote, "To be honest with you, my favorite thing is to take the oil in Iran." End quote. He mentioned Karg Island by name. If you don't know what Karg Island is, it's Iran's primary oil export terminal. 90% of Iran's oil exports flow through it. Iran sells roughly 500 million barrels of discounted crude to China every year. That's an inventory Trump is eyeing. He also said, and I want you to hear this one,
I would only say that we're doing extremely well in that negotiation, but you never know with Iran because we negotiate with them and then we always have to blow them up, whether it's the B-2 bombers or just terminating, as an example, the Iran nuclear deal done by Barack Hussein Obama, probably the worst deal we've ever done as a country, one of the dumbest deals we've ever done.
We negotiate with them and then we always have to blow them up. That's a direct quote from the President of the United States to a major financial newspaper about a country with nuclear ambitions. The Pentagon, per the Washington Post, is preparing for ground operations in Iran that could last weeks. Thousands of American soldiers and Marines are arriving in the Middle East. Here's where this connects to your money. Adam Kobayashi from the Kobayashi Letter posted Friday afternoon, Trump has 50 free hours to contain the bond market before futures open Sunday. If not, things will get very ugly very fast. That's not a doom account. That's a macro analyst who watches treasury auctions for a living. The U.S. government needs to refinance $10 trillion in debt this year. The Iran war has added hundreds of billions in new spending. The 10-year treasury yield has been climbing since the war started, and every basis point up costs the government tens of billions in annual interest. The Fed, meanwhile, held rates at its March meeting, revised inflation upward to 2.7%, core CPI running at 3.1 annually. The Fed has two options: cut rates, inflation explodes, especially with the oil near $120. Hold rates, the debt load becomes unpayable. They know this. We know this. Bitcoin knows this. Arthur Hayes, the BitMEX founder, the man who has been right about macro and Bitcoin longer than most, recorded this in early March. He called it then.
Maybe the Obama years, but even then, crypto was kind of in its own somewhat infancy compared to now. And then in the double Bush years, there was no crypto. So how do you foresee crypto reacting in either scenario?
So either crypto looks forward and says the longer this war goes on, the more money is printed and rallies, even if equities fall, or crypto gets spanked like equities, U.S. equities in particular, as people degross their entire portfolio. It's like, okay, war is bad. I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, this is going on longer than they told me it was. So let me just sell everything and sit in cash.
You may have seen that Bitcoin dropped below $65,000 on day 30. The headlines read this as a Bitcoin story. It's not. It's a market story. Everything dropped. Stocks hit their lowest close in 2026. Gold dropped 11% this week. Bitcoin held. That's the story. CNBC ran this headline. Now, CNBC is the network that's been writing Bitcoin's obituaries since 2013. They say, a flight to safety is happening. Bitcoin is decoupling. You see where this is going, right? Now I'm going to pause right here for a second. This one is for anyone who's been thinking about getting serious about their Bitcoin setup. The Bitcoin Way will walk you through self-custody the right way with the right hardware wallet, with your own node, with full transaction verification. They'll also help you set up your phone so it's not a surveillance device. And for anyone thinking about a plan B, they guide you through residency in Panama. Can you believe it? All the way in Panama. Book a free 30-minute consultation by going to thebitcoinway.com/beyondbitcoin. That's thebitcoinway.com/beyondbitcoin for your free 30-minute consultation. This morning, not last week, this morning, Square auto-enabled Bitcoin Lightning payments for 4 million US merchants. Wow. Not an opt-in, not a test, auto-enabled. Your local coffee shop, the hardware store around the corner, the food truck outside your office. If they use Square, they now accept Bitcoin Lightning. They didn't do anything to make that happen. Jack Dorsey just turned it on. There are about 33 million small businesses in America. Square processes payments for roughly about a third of them. Jack Dorsey just enabled Bitcoin for 12% of all US businesses on a Monday morning, while Congress is arguing about whether you should get a tax break when you buy a coffee with Bitcoin. Jack Mallers, the CEO of Strike, the man who's been building Bitcoin payments infrastructure since before most people knew what Lightning even was, said something last year that I keep coming back to.
Yeah, well, get the announcement out of the way. We're launching a product that allows you to pay bills with Bitcoin, which was a missing piece for me, which I'll explain. But the product's available to everyone in America, and it works effectively. It's like a Bitcoin checking account. You get an account routing number, you can get your direct deposit to it, and you can pay bills from it. And so it functions and works exactly like you'd expect, but instead of holding your capital and your money in a currency that's actively debased and being inflated, you get to hold your capital and money in a currency that's actively appreciating 60 some odd % year over year for the last decade.
And then there's this. While Coinbase is in Washington lobbying against your tax exemption, Morgan Stanley just got NYSE listing approval for its own Bitcoin ETF. Ticker MSBT, and the fee is 14 basis points, and that is the lowest fee in the Bitcoin ETF market right now. Lower than BlackRock's IBIT, lower than Fidelity, lower than everyone who got there first. Eric Balkunas, the Bloomberg ETF analyst, said something about this that I want you to think about. Quote, "This bank happens to have 16,000 advisors managing $6 trillion in assets. They are the ultimate gatekeepers of rich boomer money. 16,000 advisors, $6 trillion in assets. These people are not Bitcoin influencers. They're not on X. They do not have laser eyes. They call their clients on Tuesday afternoons and say things like, 'We're looking at modest allocation to alternative assets.' And starting very soon, that call is going to include, 'We have a Bitcoin ETF. The fee is the lowest in the class.'" Preston Pish has been explaining why Wall Street's move into Bitcoin isn't a trend, it's a structural shift.
You have to have a deep understanding that the fixed income market, it has been bid for 40 years and it's finally starting to unravel since 2020. So from like the 1980s until 2020, if you were a fixed income investor, it always went up. It was literally in a bull market for 40 years straight. Mm-hmm. And so when a person's looking at MicroStrategy and they're saying, okay, so he's like securitizing Bitcoin, he's issuing fixed income, but like that's not going to last forever.
The 40-year bond bull market is unwinding. The assets that were safe for decades, treasuries, fixed income, the stuff your parents were told to hold, are no longer behaving the way they're supposed to. Morgan Stanley's 16,000 advisors know this. Their clients are starting to ask questions. And the answers that they're about to give is, here's a Bitcoin ETF at 14 basis points. Bitcoin adoption doesn't wait for permission from Congress. It's happening at the retail level. Square, 4 million merchants. It's happening at the institutional level. Morgan Stanley, 6 trillion in assets. It's happening at the nation state level. El Salvador bought more Bitcoin last week. Shocker. And meanwhile, the Parity Act leaves you double taxed on mining. You see these two tracks, right? The political class is fighting over who gets the carve out. The market is deciding who gets the Bitcoin. Here's my take on all this. The Parity Act is bad for Bitcoin. The crypto lobby puts its interests above yours. That's not shocking. That's how lobbies work. But it's worth naming clearly. Bitcoin tax treatment is the #1 priority, and every other token in its space should be bowing down and be grateful that Bitcoin paved the road that they're riding on. The Iran war is writing the macro case for Bitcoin in real time. Trump wants to seize an entire oil island, and the bond market needed containment over a weekend. The Fed has no good options. This is exactly the environment Bitcoin was built for. And the adoption is happening anyway. Square, Morgan Stanley, El Salvador. Saylor put his laser eyes back on this weekend. When which, if you know, sailor, is not a casual gesture. You don't get to choose the timeline. You choose whether you are positioned before the timeline becomes obvious. And Bitcoin is that answer to choose. Duh. Last break of the day, ClubOrange, formerly known as the Orange Pill app. This is the premier Bitcoin community app. 19,000 members across 71 countries. You can find Bitcoiners near you, discover meetups and events. They have a merchant map, a built-in Lightning wallet, and a community that paid $40 a year to be there, which is just enough friction to keep out the bots and the influencers. You can find me on there too. I'm at Oshins, O-S-H-I-N-S. Come say hi. Come tell me what you thought of the show. Leave me a comment. Whatever you want to do. That's cluborange.org. Here's my final thoughts. There is a version of this story where Bitcoin is the villain and the Bitcoin community is the victims. But that's not really quite the whole narrative right there. Coinbase is a company. It has shareholders and a stablecoin business and lobbyists in Washington. It's going to optimize for itself. That's what most companies do. The question isn't whether Coinbase will put Bitcoin first. It won't, obviously. The question is whether you're going to wait for the political process to give you permission to use sound money. Square didn't wait. Morgan Stanley didn't wait. El Salvador didn't wait. The infrastructure is being built regardless of what happens in a committee room. Bitcoin is a long game. The question is, do you want to play checkers or chess? I'd say go for chess and study some Bitcoin. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what you see and you want to see more, make sure you hit that like button below. Or you can subscribe to the Simply Bitcoin channel for more content like this. We're coming out with it every single day of the week. Also, do not forget to hit that notification bell. If you want to reach out to me directly, I'm RunDanceBitcoin on X. Otherwise, I'm Oshins. This is Beyond Bitcoin. Until next time.